Welcome to Nurse Burnout Solutions, the show that empowers you to beat stress, reclaim your energy, and discover lasting fulfillment in your nursing career. I'm your host, Betty McLean. I'm a nurse with over 20 years of experience, and I'm also a certified life and certified burnout coach. I'm here to share expert insights with you, a lot of practical tools, and some inspiring stories. So join me as we navigate the challenges of a career in healthcare, and I help you find renewed purpose and resiliency, one episode at a time. Wouldn't it be nice if everyone around us would just do what they're supposed to do? If it would be so nice if everyone would just do what we want them to do, behave the way we want them to behave, say the things we want them to say, and think the way we want them to think. That would make our life so nice, right? Unfortunately, that is not how the world works. And I say unfortunately, but really, we don't want other people dictating to us how we think, how we talk, what we do or don't do. So, in reality, we really don't want to control other people because that would mean that other people could control us. But it is true that our brain often offers us this idea that if this other person, especially people close to us, would just behave the way we want them to behave the way we expect that they should behave, then life would be easier. In the world of life coaching, this can sometimes be called a manual, and I'm going to explain this concept. So, when you buy a new microwave, let's say, it comes in its pretty little box and it comes with an instruction manual, a user's guide, right? And so you open that up, you unbox your microwave, you plug it in, and you open up the guide, and the guide tells you exactly how the microwave will function when you push certain buttons. That is the manual for how to operate this microwave, right? And the microwave behaves exactly the way it's supposed to according to the manual because it's a machine. If it is not acting according to the manual, then we return it, right? It's broken. That's a machine. Humans are not machines. I know, shocking statement. And we don't come with a manual because we're constantly changing and evolving. The way we behave in one situation with one person might be different in the way we act with another person or in a different situation. When we say, that person pushes my buttons, it's not a good thing, right? It because we don't have a set way that we operate, right? And that's actually okay. That's a good thing. But it's what makes relationships tricky, right? It's what makes relationships a little bit difficult to navigate sometimes because in your brain, you believe that that other person should behave in a certain way, should say certain thing and do certain things. And in their brain, they have this manual for you that you should behave in a certain way that you should say. So, what I want to offer you is consider dropping the manual. Okay. When you are in a relationship with any adult, now this doesn't apply necessarily, it does in some respects, but children and employees kind of run into their own special rules. But when you are in a relationship with another adult, whether that's a romantic relationship, your best friend, a sibling, a parent, any of these adult relationships, friendships, you have certain expectations in your brain. But as long as they remain in your brain, they are a manual that you really can't enforce. So I want you to think about a relationship that's especially tricky for you and go through what are your expectations of that other person? Do you expect them to speak to you a certain way? Do you expect them to react a certain way when you share a bit of news with them. All of those expectations, when they stay in your brain, are not helpful. Sorry, they're not. They are literally just an operator manual that you have written for that other person, right? So, noticing them, noticing the thoughts, it's really helpful if you actually write it down. What are my expectations for this other person? When do I get especially annoyed with them? When do I get especially angry at them? When do I get especially sad in this relationship? And look at what your brain is offering you for expectations, right? What is your manual for them? Now, when you notice those thoughts, you can do two things. When you notice your expectation, you can, one, accept the fact that they're an individual human and they have the right to say or do whatever they want. And you can just say, we're going to let go of that expectation. Now, it won't feel good to do that, but you can, when you notice it, it's going to pop up every time and you're just going to choose, I'm not going to I'm not going to enforce that expectation. I'm going to toss it away. And the more you do that, it does get easier. But that's the first thing that you can do with these expectations in your brain. The other thing that you can do is you can express them. Okay. So you're in an intimate relationship with your partner, or you have a sibling and this or a parent and this thought comes up. They shouldn't speak that way. Or they shouldn't do that. Or maybe when I tell them this piece of news, they should be excited for me, right? Okay, so again, these are expectations in your brain. You can choose to go to that person and say, I have this expectation in my brain, and I'd like to discuss it with you. Now, I mean, I was going to say you can't dictate. You can dictate to them that you want them to do this, but a fair warning, that's probably not going to be a pleasant conversation. Okay. But what I would love is if you have an expectation in your brain that you would like them to do, go to them and just say that. I have this expectation in my brain, and I'd really like to talk about maybe you stepping up and wanting that as well. Okay. So maybe let's get concrete here. Maybe you have a spouse and you expect that they should just take the trash out when it's full. Your parents demonstrated that and it makes sense to you. And why can't they just do that? Okay. But it's all in your head. It's not helpful in your head because it just makes you irritated and they don't know why you're irritated and it's ridiculous. So instead, just go to them and say, hey, I have this expectation that when the trash is full, you will see that and then take it out. Is that something that you would like to do? Or do we need to have a discussion around it? It's that simple. If your partner says, no, I'm not going to take the trash out unless you ask me. Okay, now you know your expectations are not in alignment around this. And you're going to have some more discussion about how it makes you feel when, whatever, and have a deeper discussion. If your partner says, oh, yeah, I also want to notice that the trash is full and take it out. Sometimes I don't notice, so you'll have to be patient with me. Okay, now you both agree that that expectation is something you can work towards. But again, unless you verbally say the words out of your mouth to that other person, it is not something that is, first of all, going to happen the way you want. It is literally just a rule in your brain making you unhappy. Okay. So, same with like a sibling. Maybe you expect your sibling to call you once a week. Okay. So you think siblings should talk once a week. All right. Fine. But unless you call your sibling and say, hey, I would really like it if we could have a phone call once a week. If you don't express that to your sibling, it is just a rule in your head making you unhappy. They aren't aware. Again, they're an adult. They get to say, yeah, that sounds great. I think that that's important too. Now you have expectations that match and you can work towards making that happen. But if you get on the phone with your sibling and they say, I can't commit to a phone call once a week. That's ridiculous. My schedule is way too busy. Okay. Now you know that that manual in your brain is not going to be addressed the way you think you want it addressed, right? And then you get to have a bigger conversation. Okay, what can you do? I really want to stay connected with you. And you get to do a little bit of negotiation back and forth and see if they can commit to something less often, whatever, whatever the situation is. The point is, when you have expectations in your brain of other people, those expectations will only make you unhappy when they're not met. Until you verbalize those requests, and for other adults, they are requests. Your expectations don't get to be dictated to other people, right? But you can make requests of the people in your life, right? And then they get to come back with, yes, I see that expectation and I'm good with that. I also want to make that happen. Or, no, right? And this is the beauty of a relationship with someone, is that there should be back and forth, give and take in your expectations and their expectations of you. Okay. So as you're thinking about your relationships, think about, what is your brain offering you? What are the expectations that you have in place? Really think about, are they things that you want to just let go because they're maybe a little bit over the top and you're just using those expectations as ways to protect yourself, or you're using those expectations based on past unhealthy relationships? There's so many things that play into why we have these expectations. So really think about, why do I have these expectations of this person? And are they something that's important enough to me that I want to talk with them about it? And then understand that that conversation is going to be a give and take. And if they haven't been doing this work, they may not have the language to have that conversation with you. So you need to be really patient with them and just have that conversation nice and calm, understanding that it may not come out the way you want it to. And that can be okay too. It's really important that you stay grounded and you express the expectations that you want to see happen in the relationships around you. And then know that the people around you get to make their own choices too, just like you do. So I would love for you to think about your expectations, have some conversations around the manual that you have for maybe those most important relationships in your life. And then if you are finding that those concepts helpful, send me a message. Let me know that you've used this concept, you had a conversation, and how it went. If you are having difficult conversations, maybe send them this podcast, and then you can both have that same language around expectations, the manual that is in your brain, right? And that might help smooth the conversation as well. Again, I hope that this is helpful. Please subscribe to the podcast and like and share it with people, because I want you to have beautiful relationships both at work and at home. So I hope you have a beautiful day. Thanks for listening today to Nurse Burnout Solutions. Remember, I really believe that all stress is manageable and burnout is not inevitable. If you are struggling with stress or in burnout, I can help. Check out the show notes for ways that we can connect and get you the support that you deserve.